Hey there, how are you today? So I am working today with Memphis, and where he really struggles, and this is something I really want to continue to get just down really well with him, because it is a flight response that he has that can be very, very dangerous on the ground or under saddle. Memphis, if you don't know, he's a 6-year-old or just coming 6-year-old Mustang, and really has a lot of issues with the right eye. Things coming approaching him from the right just really freaks him out. So I kind of want to show you what I do to work with him and kind of get him to be a little bit in that uncomfortable zone so he can learn and get it, but we don't want to push him too much that he stops learning. So that's the whole thing about like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, is that parasympathetic is we're relaxed, we're content with life. And remember, the difference between a dopamine release and a serotonin is serotonin makes you feel good and relaxed inside, where dopamine is more of an external thing, like we see something that gets us excited about things. So we want to have both of those things going with our horse, and we ultimately want to get that serotonin release from him so he starts to be really relaxed. And then we want him to really enjoy what he's doing, which then gives a dopamine release, just like with us. So I'm going to do some things here, and he can only learn when he's in the edge of threshold of being in that sympathetic nervous system state, where he's intrigued, he's trying to figure things out. But if we go too deep into that, then we stop learning us as well as horses. So remember, there's no growth in the comfort zone, there's no comfort in the growth zone. So I'm gonna do some things with him to kind of show you what I'm working on. So I've just, and I'll change it up between like a flag, and I'll put, this is an old like lunge whip, so I cut the end off of it, it was kind of done anyway. Attached some bags to it, just to kind of give it a different feel for him, something different to catch him on that other side. So I want him to be comfortable with, once again, and it's not the tools that we use, it's how we teach our horse to handle the tools that might come in front of them, right? So if we can take anything and we can do the same things with them, whether it's a flag or stick and string, or in this case, yellow bags, we want to get the same response. If we get different responses from our horses based on the different tools that we bring out, that means they're still not trusting us enough to identify something and be okay with it. So that's one check for your horse to look at, is to go, okay, I'm bringing something different out. How is he with this now? So I have this out here, and I want him to be curious about it. So I might go up and I might just show him. Remember, going back to our tools, we have 3 different types of pressure. We have direct pressure, which is I'm asking him to move off the shoulder, That's direct pressure. Indirect pressure, anything that's waving next to him or around him, is indirect pressure. Steady pressure is something being constantly put on him. Saddle, bridle, boots. If I lay this flag on him, that's direct pressure, or that's steady pressure. So typically, I'm not going to be, if I have a horse that's nervous about something out here, I'm not going to be using it as direct pressure, because they might be moving off of it due to fear. And that's one thing I want you to understand, is how we start to use our tools so then we can train our horses. I have another horse here right now that is so dull under saddle, under the leg, and doing all this stuff, but he's so sensitive he can't be clipped because he's so skin sensitive. So it's like someone made him that dull under saddle. Well, you have a really sensitive horse. Instead of transferring that and making it right at the beginning, goes back to foundation. So I've got him right here. So I just want to do some indirect pressure, so back and forth around him until I see a relaxation, his head dropped a little bit. I don't ever typically look at the leg cocked on a horse as relaxation. Might be resting that leg, doesn't mean they're relaxed necessarily in their mind. So I'm going to come back and do indirect pressure with him. And now I'm going to come up and I'm just going to approach and wait for a response that he's starting to relax a little bit. Because you can tell right now he's looking at me going, what should I do with this thing? And so I'm looking for him just to kind of like settle down a little bit. So I'm going to stay with him. I'll stay with him here. A lot of his issues are right around the middle of the neck up to the face. Very, very cautious about those areas. So I'm going to stay with him here. still with him. Because I also know he's the type of horse too that if he might do something for a little bit, fine, and then all of a sudden it builds and builds and builds. So we want to build that partnership with him. So I'm just going to pretend like I'm petting him. Still looking for a relaxation sign for him. So you see how that kind of started to build up with him? So I'm just going to ask him to walk forward with me so he can get a little bit closer to the camera. And you can see with him how I want him just to start to relax. There. So he took that lick and chew, and then I can release that pressure. So I want him to know that when the pressure's on him, when he gets to go back into a parasympathetic state, which is licking and chewing and relaxing, his mind's calming back down, he's getting that serotonin release. It's saying, hey, you don't have to worry, we can be relaxed, we can start to embrace this. That's when we want to release that pressure and reward. Reward with that release of pressure. Now, even though he wasn't moving when I put it on him, he was tense. So that's one thing I want you to really look at is how tense is your horse when we're doing stuff like this, and when is that proper time to release that pressure. So that time, much better. I'm going to come to this side. This is his really difficult side, this right eye. You can see right there, huge difference in him. Now, I want to set my horses up for success as much as possible. So if I take my horse and they have an issue with anything that I'm doing here, that may come out under saddle. So if they have an issue with pressure around their body, steady pressure anywhere on their body, and I come to here and I put pressure on him here and I'm riding him and all of a sudden he feels pressure here, he might do something really, really dangerous and might not end good for either one of us. So we want to set him up as much as possible. So I'm going to hold this right here and I'm waiting for that next relaxation sign again. So see it kind of builds with him. See how he's getting a little bit more nervous as it's sitting here? So I'm just going to hang out with him for a second until I see a sign of relaxation. Because this is a horse that took about 70 hours to get a halter on him, in a way where he just trusted me enough to do it. And we do this to teach him how to handle situations in his life. So I might even come in here, just love on him while that's there. And I might ask him now just to take a step forward with this on here, just to change his thought process a bit. And this is what takes time, right? So I want to be here with him. So what am I looking for here? I'm looking for a sign of relaxation. The head to drop down a little bit. I'm looking for lick and chew. I'm looking for just him becoming softer. There we go. So I waited for him to stop shaking off when he had that lick and chew. So now I'm happy with that, right? So now we're going to go over to looking at moving this over on his other side. So I'm going to ask him to move from it. So see how he's much more relaxed now. And now I might just wave this as we're going around in a circle here. I'm gonna come out a little bit bigger. So I might just wave this and see if I see any change in his body. So now he looks at the cones. I'm looking to identify any change in his body or tension to see where might he get worried. Change direction. Just a little worried going by that cone. Before I get into using this tool, this aid of these bags to go over the top of them, going over different sides, I want to make sure that he's comfortable in his environment. So if he's not comfortable in his environment and I start to do these other things with him, then it's going to not be a good situation for when I start to add a little bit more pressure to him. Pressure is this. So stay tuned as we work through this in part 2 and we continue to go through how we get our horse to not just be desensitized. That's not a word that I typically use because we don't want our horses to be desensitized to the things that they should be sensitive to, and we want them to make a decision, proper decision. Horses have the ability to self-regulate. It's been proven. Dr. Stephen Peters has a great book called Evidence-Based Horsemanship. If you haven't gotten that book, it's an awesome book, easy read, and it's fascinating on the science behind how horses learn. So now he took a nice big breath. And what I want to show you is like how we go through this process to make horses really solid, to do good foundation for them and have them understand how to self-regulate, where they go, I haven't seen that before, but I don't have to worry about that. You take your horse to a new environment, they go, I don't have to worry about the new environment because I trust myself and I trust you. You've helped you as a human has helped me build confidence to look to you for guidance, but also be self-aware and be able to regulate on my own without getting worried. So stay tuned for the next part of this. Hope you have a great day.